recently I went for a bike fitting and I recorded it to share it with you. Watch to find out what to expect at a bike fitting and if you need one. I have my Canyon bike fitted at business as usual. They have a bike shop and a coffee shop and a bike painter all under one roof, so it's a nice cycling community and cycling hub very near to where I live here in Bristol. Andy was my bike fitter and he has 5 years experience, and I've gotten to know him well, so I knew he understood my riding style and what I prioritize when I ride. He likes to keep things simple, so sound familiar? So that was a good fit for me. He doesn't believe you need super fancy equipment when you get your bike fitted, just the right knowledge and experience. So I have a lot of riding coming up over the coming months as I try to achieve super randonneur status, and I wanted to make sure my Canyon was fitted properly for me, especially because thanks to Shimano I have SPD SL style cycling cleats now, so road style shoes. I've been using SPDs, which is the mountain bike style cycling cleat. Watch and find out how it went.
So to start with, Andy took a look at just in general what my feet were like, how my knees normally pointed, if I had any injuries. So just getting an idea of what he was dealing with. So when he was tracking my pedaling stroke, he would know what to look for. Here he's seeing that my right foot, the arch is slightly fallen. And so when he tracks my knee, he'll look to see if I'm compensating for that fallen arch and if anything can be done to support it. There's a lot of taking the shoes on and off to get the cleat position correct. So he started with positioning it in the most efficient position on the pedal. So we got that in place. Then he took a look at how my pedal stroke was with the setup as is, and then worked on the positioning of the angle of my feet and just making sure that the pedal movement and the knee tracking based on the pedal and the cleat was correct. I got on and off the bike numerous times. You won't see that in this video, but once he made an adjustment, I got back on, he would track my pedal stroke again. He would use this laser, as you can see in this shot here, and just tracking my knee positioning and making sure everything was aligned correctly. And so he would check from different angles. He was very thorough. So once the shoes and cleats were set up in the right way, it was time to get the saddle in the right position. So a saddle, you've got 3 different variations of movement. You've got the height of the saddle, the forward and back of the saddle, and the tilt of the saddle. So in working with those 3 things, he would check the angle of my knee and make sure it was in the most efficient position and the correct position for the knee, and again watching the tracking and the pedal stroke and making sure everything was coming together. At one point he realized that one of my legs might be slightly shorter than the other, so he had me lay down and he checked on that. Turned out one leg is 1 millimeter shorter, he thinks, than the other, so a wedge was put in the shoe to give that leg that extra millimeter. So yeah, he was quite a perfectionist in getting things just so, and he would explain to me, he knows that I'm interested in this very much, so he explained everything he was doing. And once all of the saddle work was done, he then did the final adjustments on my handlebar positioning, which is pretty close to being spot on. I had rotated it back a little bit, but since he moved my saddle forward, I didn't need that rotation, so he could get my wrists in a better position. When he was happy with all my positioning, he then took the measurements of my bike and charted them on sort of a map of the geometry of a bike and my numbers accordingly for each measurement, the saddle height, the reach for the handlebars, the angle of my saddle. So I have all those numbers, so should I ever rent a bike, I can send those numbers and they can be transitioned onto a bike I rent or perhaps the next bike I buy, as long as the bike is of similar geometry.
I know I'm in a good position. I don't have to worry about injuries to my knees or, just in general getting any weird niggles. And so I'm also in a more comfortable position. So the main thing I noticed after getting my Boardman fitted was how much more stable I felt on the bike. And similarly, once I got my saddle in the right position on this bike, I have felt since going out much more stable and secure. I think people refer to it as being more connected to the bike or more anchored to the bike, just more at one with your bike, I guess. So yeah, it makes a difference. I spoke to Andy about who he thinks needs a bike fit, and he said anyone can benefit from a bike fit, especially people who take their cycling seriously or do a lot of miles should be looking at getting a bike fitting done. I asked Andy the best way to find a bike fitter, and he said by far the best way is to get recommendations, especially recommendations from somebody you know and trust. If you happen to not know any other cyclists, if you ask around your local cycling clubs or send a message out on their forums or Facebook groups, and if you start to see the same name cropping up repeatedly, that's probably a good sign they've got a good reputation. At the end, Andy said something that I thought was quite interesting and very true. The sport of cycling likes to glorify the pain of cycling, but riding your bike should be fun and it shouldn't be painful. So if you are having niggles or pain while you're riding your bike, that is a good reason to go see a fitter. So don't try to work through the pain, get it sorted so you can enjoy your ride. If you have any questions, as usual, let me know in the comments below. If I don't know the answer, I'll pop over and ask Andy for the answer. And if you do like this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up so that I know what kind of content you guys like me to make.